Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. So this is session 9 of cessation of eye making, beyond eye making. Yeah. And we're still on the theme of cessation of identification. This is the third part of it. If you remember back in the early days, the two main supports for identification are ignorance and craving. So we covered ignorance, and there, of course, these two are really, really fundamental topics, very deep topics. I mean, you can put all the other categories. You can talk about the outflows, the fires, 3 fires: greed, aversion, delusion, the 10 fetters. But they all come down to ignorance and craving. Simple. Well, that's the short answer. Not so simple. So we come to craving. That's a really, I'll say, a hot topic. Very, very deeply ingrained in our being. Yeah, 3 kinds of craving. The Buddha simplifies into 3 basic ones: craving for sense pleasures, craving for existence, craving for non-existence. You can perhaps appreciate just how fundamental these are to life, like craving for sense pleasures. I mean, most people's lives, they just revolve around trying to satisfy sense pleasure. Pleasant sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch, thoughts. Well, a whole industry is built on it, right? The whole food industry on taste, the whole beauty industry on fashion industry on sight, I guess. Music industry on sound. Wow, my goodness. What will the economy do if we succeed with the cessation of craving? Economy will collapse. But it'll be much more peaceful world probably anyway. Especially for all the animals that live here too, are being exploited for our pleasure. Cessation of, the craving for existence. Philosophers and psychologists talk about, the kind of will to live, right? Fundamental will to live, survive. And if you've read anything about survivor stories, you just see this incredible, powerful force to survive, go through all kinds of privations and suffering, and but just to survive, to keep going, even just yesterday, going up that hill yesterday in the afternoon in the heat and exhausted, I thought, this has to be the hell realms. What am I living in this realm for? This is really miserable. Would it be better to check out? No, but I didn't. must have been the craving for existence. I thought, tomorrow is Dewey Day. I can't. Not today. Maybe after today. So anyway, the cessation of craving, in a simple form, again, the simple formula for it is the complete waning, ceasing, giving up, forsaking. The cessation of identity is the complete waning, ceasing, giving up, forsaking, releasing, relinquishment of craving. Got that? How many is that? 6? And basically, the Buddha points out there's what I call two different ways. There's a way of relinquishment and a way of development. So the way of relinquishment, that's the usual one mentioned, was that the way of mentioning these different, craving for sense pleasures, craving for existence, craving for non-existence. So the Buddha points out the simple solution, his theory anyway, for the cessation of the craving for sense pleasures is to understand, as it really is, the origin and passing, gratification, disadvantage, and escape from sense pleasures. So that's one of those contemplations I mentioned about the theory of ignorance, of cessation of ignorance. The gratification, disadvantage, escape, that we reflect upon them, contemplate. And you recognize sense pleasures do give gratification, but it's very, very limited. It's gratification, not satisfaction. Satisfaction, no. That doesn't quite work, but it's close anyway. Gratification, but not satisfaction. But there is disadvantage to it. Sense pleasures are not always dependable. Even something like we had not long ago we finished lunch. It's and you can look forward to certain food you enjoy, but then next time, not quite there. And especially if there's something you really enjoy, and you overindulge in it, then you have the opposite effect. Huh? You get sick of it. Too much of a good thing. So the escape from it, from sense pleasures, is of course to renounce, give up the desire and passion for it, which maybe in some cases is make yourself sick. So the Buddha pointed out that especially on the spiritual level, that the pleasures of the senses have little delight and much suffering and tribulation, and the disadvantages are much more. If you overindulge, the disadvantages are much worse. You overdo it, whatever it is. Even too much sound, too much beautiful sound, you lose your hearing or something. But of course, people very rarely reflect upon the disadvantage. Keep looking at the gratification, right? So the Buddha is pointing out to us, look at the whole picture now. Gratification, danger, and escape. And if you recognize, that the disadvantages of it, you say, okay, we admit that there is gratification, yes. Not denying that sense pleasures are evil and whatever it is, and they are dangerous, but they're not evil, and it's not immoral. There's a limit to it. Some of them are, but it also has disadvantages, and they can be very serious. Your health, maybe even your life sometimes. Like maybe I shouldn't get personalized here, but anyway, we heard about some people who, there's a story, the Jataka stories, Chochok. Is it Chochok? The Brahmin in the Vesantara, the greedy Brahmin, right? Who overeats. Chuchok, guess what I said, didn't I? What language am I speaking? That's what. Yeah, but he's that greedy Brahmin who gets the Buddha to be, to renounce his children, doesn't he? And his wife even. Yes, with the Buddha to be, right? In previous life. And he's practicing dana, generosity paramita. So the Brahman asked him for his children and his wife, and he gave his chariot, and he gave his wife, and he gave his children, and his Brahman was so greedy, that what did he do? He sold the children or something, and then he got this huge banquet. Then he ate and he ate and he ate, and there's no, he ate a banquet. He sold the children, I think, and had a huge banquet of food.
No, I know
The Brahmin, yeah. Yeah, he overate. Yeah. And there's a Thai movie about it. About 3 hours long, isn't it? Or something, 5 hours long or something. And I mean, just the scene where the wife has to give up the children is about half an hour long. She's wandering around in tears and heartbroken and just wandering around through the forest for half an hour, grieving for. It was really, really impressive. Actually, a bit boring after half an hour. But then they show this Brahmin, the greedy Brahmin, eating. He was really a good actor, wasn't he? Yeah. Very good, and he's eating away, and then there's, he's really, his stomach is bloated, like really bloated, and then somebody says to him, "One more biscuit, master." And then, oh well, I guess I will. And then the camera moves away, and then you hear boom.
How old is the movie?
Well, the Thai one is quick. Well, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. I mean, it's not in Hollywood, but anyway, what was the story? What was the point of this? We don't look at the danger of it. The danger. You always look at the gratification, you see, right? Yeah. Looking always at gratification, not the danger, not the disadvantage, and So when we reflect upon that, then you bring up your mind. Oh, how to get out of this now? How to get beyond this pull of gratification, this craving? Then I have to renounce desire and passion then for the sense pleasures. You can say we can enjoy them to within their limit, but then when they go, we let go too. Very subtle point. Not have any sticky fingers. So, because the danger is, the Buddha says, it's hard to have sense pleasure without thinking, without having sensual delight, perception of sensual pleasures, thoughts of sensual pleasures. They can just overwhelm the mind. Think about it all the time. Oh yes, that when I was in Thailand and having to live in a monastery, having supper in the evening, and my first month or so, I had hamburgers waiting at the end of my walking path for me in the evening. It was ready to devour me, rather than me devour it. It was going to devour me. It was crazy. There was no food in the monastery in the evening. Here I was haunted by hamburgers. Didn't make sense, but there was craving. There was craving as Mara, a real entity there. So the Buddha pointed out, in opposite to that, the well-being from renunciation, seclusion, calming, and awakening. Very few people actually know that, do they? They don't know the calming that can come from renouncing sense pleasures. Like being in that monastery in Thailand in the evening. Before that, I stayed in a monastery, but I was a layperson in the town. In the evening, I go out for a walk, for supper, and restaurants, smells of food, everything. It was very tempting. Well, more than tempting. I wasn't keeping the 8 precepts then. But coming and living in the forest monastery, far from the restaurants, there was no temptation. Just was off the picture, off the radar, totally. And then it was so peaceful to have a long period of just having no interruption, with eating as a very strong sensory impingement, eating and all the thoughts and the taste and all the rest of it. There was just a very calm period of no interruption like that. And then it was, what a relief, really. Yeah. But if you had to go into the city and live there, everybody in the evening is cooking. And I was in one monastery, a meditation monastery in Chonburi, but the monastery was surrounded by houses. And just over the wall from my kuti was, of course, a house. And in the evening, they were cooking their meals and drifted across. It was very distracting. So even though it wasn't always that smell, a good, nice smell, sometimes it was sort of, fermented fish or something, but still. So when it comes to craving for existence, the Buddha gets us also to give these reflections, these wise reflections about, all states of existence are impermanent, subject to change, and unsatisfactory ultimately. Any state of being, even kind of being peaceful. If you hang on to that state of being, I want to be peaceful, it can be very, very unpleasant because your mind is not always peaceful. I mean, I don't know about, my mind anyway. I don't want to drag you into this, but and there are times when your mind can be peaceful just naturally, but other times, if you hang on to it especially, other times your mind changes. The next morning you wake up and blah, 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 blah again. What happened? Well, yesterday I was so peaceful. What happened? Was it something I ate? Was it my dreams? Was it, who knows sometimes? So when we recognize that, reflect on that, how these states of existence, even pleasant ones, are subject to change, then we get a bit disillusioned, nibbida, disillusionment with holding on to these states. I don't know how many times in Thailand, sitting in the monastery and meditating, and having a very, very peaceful state of mind, and then just maybe one thought, one memory comes up, and boom, the mind's off. And then try and get it back. You have that thought already, it's triggered off the thought. Then you have a thought to try and get rid of that thought. A thought to get rid of the thought about the thought about the thought. And your mind can just go crazy. And just say, just turn inside. Oh, busy mind. Be aware of busy mind. And deeper inside, it's peaceful. If I wanted to be peaceful outside, outside as it were, my mind, terrible, you get pulled into it. But inside, be at peace with busy mind. Yeah, we're going to receive it. That's the way it is right now, just like the weather. I want it to be certain warmer than this, but it's this way, so okay. Put on an extra piece of clothing, and okay, fine. But if you don't like it and you fight with it, and but I want to wear my T-shirt, well, then tomorrow you get pneumonia. Even more unpeaceful. And again about this bhava, the craving for existence, bhava tanha. There's a famous sutta the Buddha gives to Kachana. Kachana, yeah. The Buddha says about the world usually depends upon the extremes of existence or not existence. Yeah. But if one sees the truth of the arising of the world as it really is with right wisdom, then there is no non-existence. Recognize again this dynamic aspect of the world. It doesn't exist, absolutely forever. It's a constant process, dynamic process. So when you see the arising of the world as it really is, then there's no non-existence. You don't take a fixed position there. When you see the passing away of the world as it really is with right wisdom, then there's no existence. Yeah. Then the Buddha explains about dependent origination. Everything is arising from a cause, arising from a cause. So what we think of as one existence, the world, is not such a thing. There isn't such a thing as one world, one existence. Just processes. Now your existence is pleasant, now it is unpleasant, now it's peaceful, now it's not unpeaceful. So then you recognize, that's how it really is. And to hold on to peacefulness against unpeacefulness is suffering. Holding on to one form of existence against another, is going to be suffering. So we see that as it really is. Yes, day after day, time after time, and disappointment, and okay, let go. Just be with the present moment as it is. Easy to say, but requires some reflection, contemplation to see it as it really is. So that's the relinquishment of craving directly. I should have mentioned at the beginning here, I was thinking about it on the way down, but I forgot about it, that craving is the source of identity, but craving is also the source of dukkha, right? Yeah. What the Buddha is saying then, having an identity is dukkha. What a profound insight. Huh? So many people, having an identity is their main purpose in life, right? Being somebody, I drove myself crazy as a student. What am I going to do? What am I going to be, Besides rich and famous, what am I going to, how am I going to get there? Studying engineering, headache. Studying, what else could I study and become rich and famous? What a suffering, And who would, I never even thought, never even guessed, it wasn't on the curriculum, I'm going to end up as a Buddhist monk. Nobody in my school could have told me. Nobody, I didn't even know either. They asked what your career choice is when you're in high school, you see, so they can direct you towards different courses, you see. There never was Buddhist monk on there, you see. Technical program, secretarial program, academic program, that was it. So all that suffering I had was just a waste of time. Could never have figured out I'll end up this way. So having identity is suffering, I know that. So this is a cessation of craving directly through relinquishment. There's another way, sort of indirect if you like, which there's various supports for craving. As I mentioned, there's craving, everything goes down to craving and ignorance, but there's supports for it. Like in dependent origination, feeling is the condition for craving, right? So once one understands about the nature of feeling, when recognizing, feeling is impermanent, feeling is conditioned, so craving is conditioned. So why feed into it here? There's no real substance to this craving, and it can leave you high and dry. And sometimes the craving is associated with a number of other, craving, I don't know if it works for you or not. In the beginning, I translated this tanha as thirst. Thirst. That's what it literally means, thirst. It's like a real primal drive, for thirst and hunger. But then it didn't work out, thirsting. I guess it did work that's okay. But craving, I thought, was a lot more meaningful, is it? Meaning craving. Isn't that more than thirst, better than thirst? A craving for a thirst. Craving for a drink, rather than I'm just feeling thirsty. Anyway, just yesterday I was going through my notes again, my book notes, and I came across, I'd used thirst in it. Oops. My old translation, I had to change them all again. Anyway, sometimes the Buddhism, the craving is associated with passion, desire, affection, thirst, or fever. So whatever works for you, affection, desire, passion. Sometimes different words work at different times, mean different things to you. So, the one of the most common ones is desire. It's associated with craving too. So we can work on, if that works for you, and work on the cessation of desire then. And it's mentioned that developing mindfulness with regard to the body, when you begin to body feelings, the four attendings of mindfulness. When you're aware of these four attendings, then the desire can pass away because you really see the body as it really is, feelings as they really are. You can be aware of them as they arise and pass away, Then what am I desiring? I'm just desiring arising and passing away. There's no body there and feeling there, and it's just processes going on. So nothing really to desire, is there? Just empty space, if you like. And the other one, another approach is that one knows the future result of that desire and passion. If you contemplate, okay, if I desire this, I'm probably disappointed. It's not going to work out that way. So when you reflect upon that, rather than the gratification of it, reflect upon the future result as dangerous or disadvantage of it. Then we recognize, oh, this is a fruitless thing to do. So let it go. Remove your energy towards it. And then passion, raga. Of course, for sensual lust for the body. Of course, the meditations on asubha, the unbeautiful aspects of the body. Again, we look for the gratification. How many times people these days, if they walk in the city, how many people around look for the ugliness in people? Huh? Never occurred to you, did it? You look around for the beauty in people? Look for the beautiful people? I don't know, maybe you don't. You walk around looking at the skeletons walking around? They are skeletons, but you got to look beneath the surface. I saw a picture recently of somebody, I think it was a movie star. They had a T-shirt, it was all skeleton. That's not very good promotion for a movie star, I don't think. They want to look glamorous, don't they? Not with a skeleton. That's which part they're playing, I guess. So once again, to see one can reflect on the gratification and the disadvantage, the escape, and clearly know as it really is the results of passion. And then there's another one, which is, it's mentioned quite often in the Pali Canon, nandi, delight, but it doesn't really occur in any of the major categories. Not like desire or passion or, but delight occurs in many different occasions. So the Buddha is just pointing out that, delight can lead to grasping. So, to not seek delight, welcome, remain holding to the 5 groups of grasping, for example. Not delight in them, not welcome them. One changes one's attitude around, and then this delight can fade away. With the fading of delight is a fading of grasping then. And one of the most helpful ways is using development of appropriate attention. And when you notice how the 5 groups are grasping very, very carefully, closely, these groups, as we reflected already, hopefully from last time, and you see how these rise and pass away. Well, you don't delight in them then; they aren't so satisfying anymore. And the same with in the future, in the past and the future, do not bring up delight for I had such a body in the past, I will have such a body in the future. Just reflecting on those attitudes, gives you more desire, craving. Oh yes, I want a beautiful body. I want to look attractive. Of course, when you get older, it's not so helpful. You can hope all you want, but just look in the mirror and you get disappointed. So after the way of relinquishment, there's a way of development. And there's an interesting one discourse, only one of them, where Venerable Ananda, it's not even the Buddha, it's Ananda, but because it's in the Pali Canon, it's normally considered to be Buddha Vachana, the word of the Buddha, even though at this time probably the Buddha passed away already, I think. Somebody came to consult with Ananda, and they asked him about how to, go beyond craving. And then Ananda says, well, the craving for awakening will counteract the craving for sense pleasures. You can say that, well, the kind of, you can say the spiritual aspirations will override the worldly aspirations. So to cultivate this craving for awakening then. Of course, it's a bit dangerous there because, I guess ideally you crave for awakening, but the only way you can arrive at awakening is beyond craving. Yeah. So it's like you're craving for some very, very high ideal, but to get there you have to actually kind of develop or transcend the craving to arrive at awakening. Yeah. So that would be good for some people. Some people are, you can say, quite mature in their spiritual development. They don't have a lot of worldly ambitions, So, but then when they increase their aspirations towards awakening, then they get more energy out of it, directing their energies in the right direction, if you like. Another way of development is to contemplate. This development is in terms of developing certain factors, mental factors, which are the factors of awakening, the four satipatthanas, the Eightfold Path, of course. Sometimes developing these qualities, just like developing collectedness, concentration. When your mind is concentrated, you have very, very few sensual thoughts. It's like your mind has been lifted into a higher plane. People who have very good samadhi, it's like they're a bit ethereal sometimes. And sometimes the Buddha did encourage people, did encourage the development of jhana, for example, deep states of collectedness, as a way, and it was pleasurable. There was sukha somanasa, well-being and ease that comes from jhanic experience, or piti sukha, joy and well-being from the jhanas, But the Buddha said, well, this kind of sukha, well-being, is not of the sensual realm. It's not dangerous. It's very, very positive, in a wider sense. Because if you can use it correctly, use it as a stepping stone for contemplating vipassana. Unfortunately, some people get a bit stuck on samatha, get a bit stuck on it. Then they sometimes the pleasure from samatha, from collectedness of mind, becomes an end in itself. I guess it's more safer than having your desiring worldly sensual pleasures. So you're worldly, but you have spiritual pleasures then you desire. See? And eventually, if you do it correctly and maybe you get some guidance, then maybe you can go beyond it. Apparently there was, I think it was the story of Ajahn Tate, one of the disciples of Ajahn Mun. And he was a very gifted meditator, so he could sit down and just enter into the immaterial absorptions, cessation of perception and feeling, or the emptiness or nothingness, and just sit down and boop, he's away, But then he realized, and he was obviously a reflective person, so we reflected, but meditation is supposed to be development. But I seem to be a bit stuck here, in this level of practice. So eventually he sought out Ajahn Mun, and Ajahn Mun said, stop, don't do that. Don't indulge in jhana. You need to use the calmness of mind, but then, they say you come out of the jhana to contemplate. Because the deep absorptions, there's no thinking. After the second jhana is the noble silence, no more vitakka vichara, no more reflection. See? But it can provide a very, very deep platform of calm. Then you need to kind of step out of it into at least first jhana, at least, or out of the jhana to be able to contemplate. This is a conditioned state. This is impermanent, subject to change. It's not a permanent state. When of course, if you're in the absorptions, it seems like it can be permanent. It's just so all-encompassing that you're just lost in it. But eventually must come out again. Eventually must come out. You get hungry, or you get tired, and you got to come out of it. But most people don't contemplate that changeableness of that state, or conditioned nature of that state. So to contemplate, to bring up into your consciousness the danger in this practice, limitations of it, then it gives you a bit more insight. Yeah. So even though it can be a very positive state, samatha, but it has limitations too. So when one contemplates the danger in grasping, danger in the fetters, then unenamored, unbound, uninfatuated, contemplating danger, the 5 groups of grasping incline to decrease. So, the 5 groups of grasping and craving. Craving causes grasping. So, developing the factors of awakening, and of course, the context for it, based on seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and maturing and relinquishment. Again, these factors of awakening, very positive things, right? Mindfulness, Dhamma vichayo, joy, energy, tranquility, equanimity, collectedness. They can be very, very positive things, but make sure that when you recognize that they are based upon dispassion, cessation, and relinquishment. They're just states of mind. I mean, just as the defilements are states of mind, so are these factors of awakening, states of mind, which are arising, pass away. So when you reflect upon that, then there's a chance you won't become attached to them, grasp them. They'll still become good supports for your spiritual practice, but you won't become addicted to them. Won't increase your craving for them anyway. So there's a way of relinquishment and the way of development. Like I say, sometimes the way of development is only a temporary respite. The mind is in collectedness, very collected, very calm. There's no thoughts of craving for sense pleasures. Maybe there is some craving for existence because you want to exist there forever. Exist in absorptions forever, but they are impermanent. So you got to make sure that you bring in the contemplation that, it's limited. Like sometimes it mentions in the scriptures that somebody who comes out of the absorption, the first thing you should do is contemplate, this is a conditioned state. This is not the ultimate reality. This is not nibbana. There was one of the wrong views was, the absorptions, they are nibbana. And I think quite a few people have been fooled by that. They go into these very refined states of consciousness. They think, I've got it, nibbana. Yeah, but then, of course, you've got to come out of it. So then they have the perception, nibbana is only a temporary state. I go in and I go out, But all it is samadhi, concentration. It's not nibbana. It's very, very, it's so subtle and so, you can say refined, so uplifting, so powerful, so exceptional, blissful, that it can be mistaken for nibbana. But, you can only abide there temporarily. The Buddha said the jhanas are only a temporary abiding in peace. Or nibbana, the realization that these are only temporary, even these states of great bliss are only temporary. And you can really realize that, that's nibbana. Yeah, even jhana, I don't know if I can give up that or not, but it's a very advanced stage. So you first maybe to hold on to it for a while. But the more you remember to contemplate, this is a conditioned state, sometimes it may really, yes, right. I must come out of it. It's not permanent. Then you realize the impermanence of even the most wonderful bliss, and then it's nibbana. Doesn't mean the bliss ends. This means you aren't addicted to it. So I haven't totally disappointed you, have I? You aren't totally disillusioned. Just disillusioned with grasping it, craving for it. The 5 groups of grasping do not cease. The grasping of 5 groups of grasping ceases, which is quite a different experience. 5 groups go on, but the grasping doesn't. It's the grasping which really plugs it all up and turns these normal experiences into suffering, to the grasping of it. So once one realizes that, then you learn to let go, let go, let go. And for most people, it probably is by stages. This contemplation deepens and deepens. The more you reflect and contemplate it, it becomes deeper and deeper within you, and then letting go happens. As Ajahn Chah says, let go a little bit, a little piece. Let go a lot, you have a lot of peace. Let go completely, complete peace. So we have some homework to do, we? Little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little closer to Nibbana.
It's been quite good last week watching these dangers.
Mm-hmm.
Quite good.
Quite good. You aren't frightened.
At least we are aware to apply the danger.
Yes, yeah, you aren't frightened though yet.
Frightened what?
No, I'm just like some people. They look at the dangers. Dangers are everywhere actually. So, but you do it in the right situation, the right context. Contemplating it. Yeah, there's gratification, but there's danger too. And there is also escape from that. By letting go, release, relinquishment of desire and passion then. So you have a different appreciation of the dangers. Yeah. It's not quite so, life-threatening as it were. It's you can say life awakening, not threatening. Awakening to the way things really are then. So hopefully that's towards, at least explained a bit about the cessation of identification. So sometimes those experiences, those contemplations and meditations can be very, very penetrating. But for those who aren't able to go very deep with it, we've got 2 more to go yet. Cessation of the I am, thought I am, cessation of underlying dispositions. So that's next week. Then we have the last one, liberation. Stay tuned.